A bridge collapse in Baltimore raises eyebrows, and we get to say something good about construction crews out there who managed to clear the people off the bridge and kept minimal casualties in the event of everything that happened there. So we're going to be talking about that, as that is today's top story on the news today. But well, it shifted quite a bit over the last 7 days. Not even the last... Yeah, it was the last 7 days, because we didn't do individual streams throughout the week this past week. But in other news, Donald Trump's bond is reduced by over $300 million, making it very, very easy for him to come back and pay off. And he gets 10 extra days to go and figure out where he's going to get the money from, which, by the way, led to an absolute meltdown from our friends on the left. And we have one of the best ones on video for us to watch and talk about. So we'll go over some of what's happening there, what happened with that, and what we do with that. P. Diddy's home has been raided by federal agents. In fact, several of his homes were raided by federal agents. So we'll go over what's happening there, why I think this is a distraction, what it was that they found, and what it was that they were looking for. And Ronna McDaniel starts her career after the RNC with NBC and finishes it almost as fast as she started it. Plus, we'll be talking about more media news and a bunch more, whatever it is that we can get to. But much to the chagrin, well, not to the chagrin, much to the pleasure of our friend the Mogwai, there is more than likely 9 times out of 10 going to be a Thursday stream this week, because we had so much, and so much of it shifted so fast. So strap yourselves in. We're going to be moving along here. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. Find some friends, grab some food, and prepare to spend the next couple of hours with me here discussing what happened over the past 7 days. And there are stars in the southern sky, southward as you go. There is moonlight and moss in the trees. Down the Seven Bridges Road, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. It was so wild, and I went to bed last night, and I thought to myself, man, okay, this is cool. We've got everything, and I think, just about everything set up, and even at that point, when I went to bed last night, there were 74 tabs that were sitting open, and I thought to myself, man, this has been such a busy news week. We've got the budget, quote, omnibus, spending bill, whatever the hell you want to call it, that passed. We had the Bobulinski hearing, which was wild, and we heard the words that RICO is not a crime. We'll be talking about that. If not tonight, then on Thursday, we'll definitely be talking about that. We've got foreign news. We have got a border surge this week that nobody in the goddamn mainstream even considered talking about. I searched CNN, the Associated Press, NPR, USA Today. I searched all these for a story on the border search that happened over here. I have 4 articles on it, and they all had to come from the Daily Wire, because literally nobody else would come back and talk about that. So, yeah, we've got that going on. That might wind up on a Saturday stream. As many tabs as I have open right now, there is a 9 times out of 10 chance that we're seeing a Saturday stream coming up on this one. There was so much here. And I was even thinking that last night. I'm like, wow, we've got so much stuff going on here. And then about 1 o'clock this morning, local time, I started getting messages on Snapchat, on Discord. A bunch of people were texting me. At 1 o'clock in the morning, this guy's on a deserted island somewhere with Ashley Tisdale. And then the phone starts going off, and you're like, who the fuck's got a phone on a deserted island somewhere? Well, a lot of people wanted me to know about what happened over in Baltimore, so I started looking into that at about 3 o'clock this morning when I couldn't get back to sleep, and it is wild. And I do have to say, it was good what the construction workers did, where they were able to get as many people as they did off the bridge, because, I mean, it could have been later on in the day, could have been during a rush hour that this happened. Luckily, it was at 2 o'clock in the morning local time, and luckily, again, the construction workers were able to get the people off of the bridge. I consider those people to be heroes, and we unfortunately lost a crew of them. They're still out on search and rescue right now, but again, they were keeping the civilian populace away, and I consider that to be as heroic as I can. My heart goes out to their families. Absolutely. But again, you look at the fact that they prevented much, much more injury than could have been. This has been an inspiring story. So, yeah, we've got that to go over here as well. We've got a lot to go over here on Contemporary. So, we're going to get into it. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus and Overruled with KTZed. Go check out those great people. They are friends of mine. I hung out with them so many times in person. It is an awesome time. They do awesome work. I was not able to get in with Overruled this weekend, unfortunately. There were some things that were going on this weekend that I could not ignore, and I did have to be a part of. So there was that going on. But do go and check them out. It's going to be an epic time for you if you do. And we're going to get down into the news. And I know it was probably too soon to use the song Seven Bridges Road in the opening, but I still thought it was funny. Anyway. Let's get started. We've got Dual Helix over in the Rumble chat. And if you like what you see, enjoy what you see, number one, let's do some word of mouth, because that is how we grow around here, is through word of mouth. So definitely go back and tell the people that you've liked what you see. But the easiest thing that you can do to support this channel, other than watching at the time, is chat in the live chat. The more live chat that goes up there, that's how the algorithm runs on these, by the way. Is the more you chat in the live chat, the closer you get pulled up to the top listing on the either what's trending or what's live right now. And that works on Rumble, on Twitch, and on YouTube. If you like what you see and you do want to help spread the word, chat. That's absolutely my big request for you, is chat. Tell me how you feel. Get those chats moving, because that helps promote us up to the front. Dual Helix does a very, very good job of that, by the way, over on the Rumble side. And let's get into it. Let's get started. We are going to start again, as mentioned, with the bridges of Baltimore County, or at least one of the bridges of Baltimore County. Change a couple things over here on my side, and let's do this. Starting with the Associated Press this morning. Baltimore Bridge collapses after powerless cargo ship rams into support column. 6 presumed dead. From Leah Skeen, I'm sorry. Might run over to the Discord and grab another X off of this, because I think that we got video. I think one of my Discorders threw some video up in this, and he was semi-local. Yep, he does have the video of that. Let's read a little bit of this, and I will grab the video of that. A cargo ship lost power and rammed into a major bridge in Baltimore early Tuesday, destroying the span in a matter of seconds and plunging it into the river in a terrifying collapse that could disrupt a vital shipping port for months. 6 people were missing and presumed dead. The ship's crew issued a mayday call moments before the crash took down the Francis Scott Key Bridge, enabling authorities to limit vehicle traffic on the span. No, that wasn't authorities that did that. That was the construction crew that was working on the bridge at the time. Maryland's governor said the ship struck the bridge's supports, causing the structure to collapse like a toy. A section of the span came to rest in the bow of the vessel, which caught fire and thick black smoke billowed out of it. With the ship barreling towards the bridge at a very rapid speed, authorities had just enough time to stop cars from coming over the bridge, Maryland Governor Wes Moore said. And that is where that was. That's where the departure was from. And that is the bridge that is gone. That is a big bridge, too, by the way. I was a little blown away by the size of that. These people are heroes, Moore said. They saved lives last night. The crash happened in the middle of the night, long before the busy morning commute on the bridge that stretches 1.6 miles and was used by 12 million vehicles last year. The 6 people, still unaccounted for, were part of the construction crew filling potholes on the bridge, said Paul Wiedefield, the state's transportation secretary. A senior executive at the company that employed the workers said Tuesday afternoon that they were presumed dead, given the water's depth and the length of time since the crash. Yes, unfortunately, given the fact that we are now in the 15th hour since then, it is probably, unfortunately, safe to say that we have lost these gentlemen. F in the chat. Jeffrey Pritzker, executive vice president of Bronner Builders, said the crew was working in the middle of the bridge when it came down. No bodies have been recovered, and rescue crews continued to search in the late afternoon. This was so completely unforeseen, Pritzker said. We don't know what else to say. We take such great pride in safety. Yeah, you probably do. I'm not doubting the fact that they take such great pride in safety, but there is no amount of gear, videos, and etc. that could have prepared you for this. And we have cones and signs and lights and barriers and flaggers, but we never foresaw that the bridge would collapse. Jesus Campos, who has worked for the bridge for Bronner Builders, knows members of the crew, said he was told they were on break front and some of them were sitting in their trucks when the bridge went down. I know that a month ago I was there, and I know what it feels like when the trailers pass, Campos said. Imagine knowing that it's falling so hard, one would not know what to do. Rescuers managed to pull 2 people out of the water. One person was treated at a hospital and discharged hours later. Multiple vehicles also went into the river, although authorities did not believe anyone was inside. It looked like something out of an action movie, said Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, calling it an unthinkable tragedy. A police dispatcher put out a call just before the collapse saying the ship had lost its steering and asked officers to stop all traffic. According to Maryland Transportation Authority first responder traffic radio traffic obtained from the broadcastify.com archive. One officer who stopped traffic radioed that he was going to drive onto the bridge to alert the construction crew, but seconds later, a frantic officer said the whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody, the whole bridge just collapsed. And let's go ahead and watch what happened with that. Oops. Gotta pull that into the right tab, though. Or in the right window. Oh, come on. Let's not start that shit. That's just, it's amazing. It's incredible to see.
Yes, sir. Already starting to arrive over here at the FDA headquarters. R62 is around your location now. He just arrived. You can leave ahead.
It's heartbreaking to watch because, I mean, anybody who was up there legitimately got a couple minutes to basically put his head between his legs and kiss his ass goodbye. And I hate to put it out like that, too. But that's... man. But sometimes life comes at you that fast. On a separate radio channel for maintenance and construction workers, someone said officers were stopping traffic because the ship had lost steering. There was no follow-up order to evacuate, and 30 seconds later, the bridge fell and the channel went silent. And again, I saw some of the lead up to this as well. I mean, you see, that was a fairly short order video that came out this morning. But you see some of these videos out here where, I mean, you can see where the ship lost power and then got it back and tried to steer out, but it was too late. And then, like, right before they hit, they lost power again. I have one friend who told me that she lives in this area too, but she said she was afraid of bridges to begin with, and this whole thing did not help. Yeah, the Mogwai, who's joined us over on Twitter, or Twitch rather, says, has Jesse Ventura started yelling false flag yet? Apparently not. This is Final Destination level shit. Yeah. Let's see. Let's look at some of this here. Did he rate it for Diddlin? Yeah, we'll talk about that. Building a crate train network in Minecraft tonight. Like, are you actually playing Minecraft, or is that code for doing something that the government wouldn't like? You know, like on the Joshua Smith channel. But I only meant in Minecraft. Where was the tugs? Where was the horn blast? Well, they lost power, so. Dual Helix thinks it was a cyber attack. When the FBI says it totally wasn't a terrorist attack, it totally might have been. I'm not ruling that out either, by the way. I do need to see more details on that, but I'm not ruling that out. Peg the throttle 2. You can totally see a huge cloud of diesel smoke. I think that was them trying to get the generator back up. If I were to take the most charitable avenue of things. It departed right next to Chinatown. They relabeled the lot to the southeast in Google Maps. Campos. Wasn't he a big deal, then got disappeared? Not sure. Still, there should have been a pilot boat. Yeah, I'm not sure how that goes with maritime, honestly. I'm not 100% sure what the regulations were for that. I know I've seen with and without tugs come out of Lake Michigan, so. But Lake Michigan is considerably bigger than this. And of course, now living up on the river and seeing the locks and the dams and things going through that. From 1960 to 2015, there were 35 major bridge collapses worldwide due to ship or barge collision, according to the World Association for Waterborne Transport Infrastructure. The collapse is sure to create a logistical nightmare for months, if not years, along the East Coast, shutting down ship traffic at the Port of Baltimore, a major shipping hub. The accident will also snarl cargo and commuter traffic. Losing this bridge will devastate the entire area as well as the entire East Coast, Maryland State Senator Johnny Ray Salling said. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is speaking at a news conference near the site, said it was too soon to estimate how long it will take to clear the channel, which is about 50 feet or 15 meters if you use communist numbers deep. So, that is the initial reporting from the Associated Press. And, I mean, there are a lot of things to go with this, too. They are saying that, yes, this is at a Point Breeze, but this is one of the major highways coming through this area as well. This is the 695 bypass for I-95 that goes up and down the entire East Coast. So, not to mention, again, I mean, if this whole area is closed off to shipping, then that's going to shut down a lot of jobs as well, as they first try to investigate and then second try to get this cleaned up. So, that is what we see for that. One from CNN. Cargo ship lost power before colliding with Baltimore Bridge. 6 remain missing after collapse. From Melissa Alonso, Elizabeth Wolf, and Lauren Mascarenhas. A massive container ship lost power early Tuesday before crashing into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, causing it to collapse into the frigid Patapsco River along with people and vehicles. Now, one thing I want to point out here, with this being the Francis Scott Key Bridge, when I first started seeing this, and I didn't realize this until like 7, 8 o'clock this morning, when I hear Francis Scott Key Bridge, and any Fallout 3 player will think the same thing. The first thing I think is the one that goes across the Potomac from DC into Virginia, which is also named the Francis Scott Key Bridge. If you're a Fallout 3 fan, you will note this as the bridge where you can see the Citadel from. The one that you cross immediately after leaving the Citadel with Liberty Prime in the endgame as well. But no, and that's what I thought that was until I actually looked into this and I saw, wait, Baltimore. Wait, no, that's close to DC relatively compared to me, but that's a ways away from DC. At least 6 people, believed to be part of a construction crew repairing potholes on the bridge, remain unaccounted for. Paul J. Whitefield said at a news conference on Tuesday that is the Maryland Transportation Secretary. 2 people were pulled from the Patapsco River, Baltimore City Fire Department Chief James Wallace said. One was not injured, and the other one was taken to a local trauma center in very serious condition, he said. A patient being treated at the University of Maryland Medical Center was discharged later Tuesday, hospital said in a statement. Since this is a Windows computer with Chrome running, I should probably start closing some of these since we have over 100 tabs open right now. Baltimore City Council member Felicia Porter told CNN's Boris Sanchez on Tuesday a body had been recovered from the river, but later said she misspoke. The crew of the ship notified officials it had lost power prior to the crash. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said, noting that the warning likely saved lives. We're thankful that between the Mayday and the collapse, we had officials who were able to begin to stop the flow of traffic so more cars were not on the bridge, Moore said. He called those officials heroes. Moore noted the bridge was up to code at the time of the collapse. He said the collapse was a shocking and heartbreaking event for the people of Maryland who have used the bridge for 47 years. The governor told reporters later Tuesday there was no more information to share, other than the search continues for the 6 people that remain missing. What I've noticed and really kind of bothers me about these first couple of articles that we've read here, and we got through almost the entire Associated Press article, and we're most of the way through this, is they told us right away that there's almost no indication that this was a terrorist attack. But it appears that our friends in CNN and the Associated Press are avoiding telling us the flag that the ship was sailing under, which was a Singaporean flag, and the destination, Sri Lanka, which is quite the distance from Baltimore, I will tell you right off the bat. Let's pull up the world map here. Sri Lanka, not Sri Lanka. Let's open this up in maps, just so we can see just how far this guy intended to go from Baltimore. There's Sri Lanka, which is south of India, which meant from where he was going with the cargo that he had on board. I mean, this was a go and full, and there's no stops in between. He was leaving Maryland, around the Horn of Africa, around Madagascar, up through the Indian Ocean, and all the way up to the southern tip of India. So he was headed a ways too, which raises questions for me as well. I mean, the ship that was going pretty much as far as you could go from Baltimore is the one that hit the bridge. I have questions about that. The ship dropped its anchors as part of an emergency procedure before hitting the bridge, the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore told CNN. The vessel is currently holding position at the site of the collision and is in stable condition, and all 22 of the ship's crew members are safe and accounted for, the agency added. I guess I'm fake news too, because if we just scroll down just a little bit, but again, we're 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs in at this point. The ship, which hit the bridge at just before 1:30 a.m., was Dali, a Singaporean flagged container vessel, Coast Guard spokesperson Kimberly Reeves said. It's about 984 feet long and 157 feet wide. Synergy Group spokesman Pat Adamson told CNN it was leaving Baltimore when it crashed, according to the company website. Previously, the Coast Guard reported it was a 948-foot container ship. The ship dropped its anchors. The Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore told CNN the vehicle is currently holding position. Lights on the ship flickered, and a dark plume of smoke could be seen billowing from before it veered towards the bridge pillar shortly before impact. CNN analysis of data from the marine traffic shows. Again, questions about that too. I want to stay, and I'm going to stay with the belief that it was not a terrorist incident for now until I get better evidence presented to me. But I'm open to the idea that something went in a direction that we don't want to talk about right now. I'm open to that. But I'm going to stay with where we're at right now. And some of that I can't say on YouTube. Even if it's accurate, I know that the algorithms and the censors will see that and say, no, we can't say that. Because you're going to be, you mean something else if you say it like that. From Politico, the Baltimore Bridge collapse is raising some big policy questions. From Rye Riverd and Peter Schaefer. The early morning collision that sank the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore on Tuesday is threatening deep disruptions to the economy and travel. Yeah, that's going to be a big one in supply chains, I hate to tell you. Yes, that's why you're on Rumble, and I thank you for that. President Biden promised he would move heaven and earth to replace the bridge, and that the federal government would pay for the work, but closing off the port of Baltimore, a crucial stop wedged between other major ports amid an urgent rescue mission and the complicated nature of the laws that govern maritime shipping, will likely ripple for months. The crash has cut off access to much of the port of Baltimore, which is a major port for car and truck imports. That means figuring out what to do with vehicles that need to be unloaded might prove tricky in the coming weeks. There is no question that this will be a major and protracted impact on supply chains, Transportation Secretary Mayor Pete said during a Tuesday afternoon press conference in Baltimore. Baltimore is also the nation's second largest coal exporter, responsible for shipping out 23% of all U.S. coal exports in 2022. If you have a CDL right now, now's the time to go back in and say, hey, I'll take some extra work. The bridge collapse has cut off two terminals operated by coal supplier Consol Energy and freight rail firm CSX. In a statement, Consol said it does not know when shipping lanes will be clear of wreckage, and that it's considering options in the meantime, but it's not clear if significant amounts of coal can be shunted through other ports. Norfolk, Virginia is the nation's biggest exporter, while other nearby ports, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Savannah, handle only a small fraction of the coal exports that Baltimore does. Well, and again, you might have to either train or truck some of these up or down to some of these other ports, and some of them might have to expand to carry more of the coal. Like most other transatlantic cargo ships bringing goods into the U.S., the Singapore-flagged Dolly stopped at the Port of New York and New Jersey last week before continuing on what it calls its milk run, which included the fateful stop in Baltimore before it was set to head to Colombo, Sri Lanka. I'm willing to bet there's probably going to be a demand for people with container endorsements as well, by the way. Not that you're going to get enough trailers to get those to another port in a timely fashion, but it's going to be a big one to start to do that, because that ship is not going to Sri Lanka the way it is. That much I can tell you. In the short term, the search and rescue mission, as well as the collapsed bridge, will change some of those milk runs, forcing other East Coast ports to pick up some of the slack. And some of you other guys are getting overtime too, by the way, off of this. We need to focus on cleaning up debris as soon as the search and rescue is over because this will have a ripple effect, said Chris Van Hollen, a Maryland Democrat. This is a huge thriving port and a great economic center for Maryland and the East Coast. As rescue teams continue to search chilly waters for about half a dozen missing people, the Army Corps of Engineers is tasked with reopening the shipping channel into the harbor. Any of the operators in that space are going to be thinking about the alternatives that can accommodate these special cargoes, said Kerry Davis, President and CEO of the American Association of Port Authorities. Typically, the cargo ships stop at the New York and New Jersey port, the East Coast's largest, before moving down the eastern seaboard to Baltimore, or ports in Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. The Port of New York and New Jersey is proactively working with our industry partners to respond as needed to ensure supply chain continuity along the East Coast, said the agency's port director, Bethann Rooney. John Nardi, the president of Shipping Association of New York and New Jersey, said it's too early to know all the implications, but it will certainly result in rerouting of freight until this channel is cleared for navigation. So, well, in the short term, unfortunately, some things are going to get much, much more expensive, especially if they are import. Just let's zoom in on this for just a sec, because we had the map in the Associated Press article, but we can actually do some Google Interactive mapping here as well. So there is, and they've got it marked on there already, where the problem is, and I don't know why they call this a river. I would have called that a bay myself, but regardless. And I mean, there's a ton of communities and other places for commerce and shipping up around this area. At the very least, we'll have to come back and figure out how to get to, like, just to truck it around to some areas like this. It looks like there's another small port over here. But yeah, definitely a lot of problem going on with this. A lot of stuff to see here. What we know about the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse from Kevin Shalvey and Bill Hutchinson. Just hours before the Tuesday morning commute was to get underway, the crew of a massive cargo ship leaving Baltimore lost propulsion and control of the vessel, causing it to crash into a support column of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge, triggering a catastrophic collapse of the 1.6 mile long span and sending vehicles and people into the water, officials said. The transportation disaster unfolded about 1:35 a.m., prompting a major emergency response from Baltimore police, firefighters, Coast Guard, and authorities estimated that up to 20 vehicles went into the water with several workers and were part of a maintenance team fixing potholes on the span. I can tell you our sonars detected the presence of vehicles submerged in the water, Baltimore City Fire Chief James Wallace said in a news conference early Tuesday. Wallace said dive teams were probing the water for survivors. He said the challenges to rescue crews included darkness, maneuvering through a massive and dangerous debris field, and swim current that runs through the channel. Asked how long someone could survive in the frigid waters, Wallace said, "We're going to rely on the experts, which is our dive masters that are here, our dive team, to tell us when they believe we've reached the non-survivability point. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure we're there." Maryland Department of Transportation Secretary Paul Wiedefeld said the depth of the water in the area where the crash occurred is about 50 feet. Biden tells Baltimore residents, "We're with you." And I will echo that fact as well. Here on Contemporary, we are with you as well. I will find whatever we can do to help the people who are affected by this. Power issues reported before the crash. Emergency officials said 8 people were initially accounted for and 2 were rescued. At least 6 people were still missing. University of Maryland Medical Center said it treated 1 patient rescued from the bridge collapse, and that person has been discharged from the hospital. The other person rescued was not injured, authorities said. 2 construction workers were on the bridge at the time, officials said. 1 ran from the bridge, and the other fell into the water and swam ashore, according to the latest internal Department of Homeland Security briefing obtained by ABC. Wow. I mean, you'll do a lot for survival, but that is quite the swim. Good on that dude. According to the Coast Guard memo, a harbor pilot and an assistant aboard the cargo ship reported the power issues that prompted multiple alarms on the bridge of the vessel and the loss of propulsion. The pilots were operating the ship, not the ship's captain, according to Wiedefeld. Biden said the local authorities were alerted to the pending disaster and closed the bridge. Officials said the container ship was moving at the speed of 8 knots, or about 9 miles an hour, when it struck the bridge. They said the disaster could have been much worse had authorities not stopped cars from going onto the bridge. And just to think that you can get that much damage out of 9 miles an hour. All the workers on the ship were accounted for, according to the Coast Guard memo. There were some previous deficiencies. Danish shipping company Maersk chartered the Dali cargo ship. A spokesperson for the company told ABC News in a statement. We are horrified by what has happened in Baltimore, and our thoughts are with all those affected. We can confirm that the container vessel Dali, operated by charter vessel company Synergy Group, is time chartered by Maersk and is carrying Maersk customers' cargo. No Maersk crew and personnel were on board the vessel. We are closely following the investigation conducted by authorities in Synergy. We will do our utmost to keep our customers informed, the Maersk spokesperson said. The Dali cargo ship had 2 deficiencies since it was built in 2015. According to records from the Electronic Quality Shipping Information System, the most recent deficiency was given on June 27, 2023, during an inspection in the port of San Antonio, Chile. Not the one in Texas. The deficiency was for propulsion and auxiliary machinery concerning gauges and thermometers, according to Equasis. The other deficiency was given in 2016 for structural conditions concerning a damaged hull, impairing seaworthiness. The records show the last inspection of the container ship was September 13th, 2023 in New York. So a while ago. We got one from USA Today. I'm going to skip this one because this is live update, so this is just an updater as we go. But we can grab one from our friends over at NPR, who tell us that Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott on the impact of the Key Bridge collapse. We could listen to this one. This is a short listen. But remember, if we are going to listen to this, then we have to go over and hit the donate button because NPR is only 10% government funded. That's right. They don't get enough off ad revenue. They have to lay off their workers, and they only get 10% of your taxpayer dollars. So hit that donate button because otherwise they can't tell you that this crash will eventually be all Donald Trump's fault. So make sure you hit that donate button because NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio, let's see what it is they have to say.
Emergency crews are responding to what is being described as a mass casualty event at the scene of a major bridge collapse in Maryland. It happened after a large cargo ship rammed into the 1.6-mile-long Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, causing it to crumble and fall apart. The governor has so far said there's no signs that this is terrorism, that it appears to be an accident. Officials are still working to confirm how many people have been impacted, including missing construction workers who were servicing the bridge at the time of the collapse. I spoke earlier to Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, who has been on the scene since early this morning and continues to be there. He had just received a phone call from President Biden. Mayor Scott, I want to just start with how your city is doing, where you are right now, and how this rescue operation is going. I understand you just got a call from the president.
We're hurting. Right now, our focus is on search and rescue to try to save lives. And that's where our focus will remain until it's no longer a search and rescue mission. I did just hear from President Biden. I've been hearing from his team all day, Secretary KTZed, the Homeland Security Secretary, and the President was just giving his thoughts and prayers and understanding and knowing the Port of Baltimore very well throughout his history, has said that he and his administration are going to be there to support us in any way that they can, as always, and we're very grateful to him for it.
Now, we know that 2 people have been rescued. Others are still missing. Do you have any idea how many people this might have impacted? How many people are searching for their loved ones right now?
Right now, our latest number for folks that we are still trying to actively locate in the water is 6. We know we had those 2 that were rescued, 1 who's in critical condition, 1 who refused treatment. But right now, the focus is on those 6 people in the water.
And those are the construction workers who are servicing the bridge?
Yes, the construction workers who are simply just working, providing for their families, trying to make transit for other folks in Baltimore and Maryland better.
And what about people who were driving on that bridge at the time of the collapse? Do we know anything about anybody else that might have been impacted?
So as of right now, we do not believe that there was anybody driving on the bridge as it collapsed. That could change. We do know that after a Mayday call was put out from the boat, our fabulous workers and our state transit administration were able to shut down traffic coming onto the bridge in both directions, saving lives, and those personnel or heroes for doing that.
What do you need, Mayor? What does your city need as you go into this search and rescue operation, but also to deal with the recovery after today?
Yeah, look, right now we have great support from the federal government, as you just heard from the president himself. We're working in tandem here, our state government and local governments. We have fire department units, diver units from Baltimore City, Baltimore County. We have state assets here. The Coast Guard is here. Our police assets are here. We're going to continue to do the work, but anything that we need, we will make the ask for sure.
The construction workers, the 6 missing people, are you in touch with their family?
We know that our partners in the state and government has been in contact with those families. We'll continue to lift up and support them in every way.
Yeah, well, we hope for good news for all 6 of those people and their families and for your city. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And now.
So that was the governor. I'm sorry, that is the mayor, not the governor. And again, my heart goes out to those families too. I do hope that you can find peace. Unfortunately, again, I feel at this point, with as cold as it's been, we have nothing but regrets. But I hope we can help these families move on when the time is right. And in the end, Biden is saying that the federal government is going to pay for the entire cost of rebuilding the Baltimore Bridge, but says it will take some time. Now again, this is a good use of federal dollars, and I don't say that often. This is a disaster. This is unforeseen. This is something that nobody could have predicted or prepared for. This is where the FEMA dollars are supposed to be going. I question where some of them do go sometimes, but this is the kind of thing that they are there for. From the Daily Wire, President Biden promised on Tuesday that the federal government would pay for the entire cost to rebuild the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. I don't necessarily agree with the entire cost, but again, I'm not opposed with FEMA dollars going into this particular project. Biden spoke during a press conference at the White House following the collapse of the 1.6-mile-long bridge and said that he would push for Congress to approve the funding to rebuild the bridge, but warned that it will take some time before traffic once again flows as normal. The bridge is part of the Interstate 695. Yeah, this is going to be a few years, I'm going to tell you right off the bat. This is not going to be a short project because while the concrete sections of this bridge actually stayed for the most part intact when they hit the water, that impact did put enough stress on them that you would not put those back up. It's my intention, man, that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, man. And I expect Congress to support my effort, Biden said. This is going to take some time, man. And the people of Baltimore can count on us to stick with them until the thing is open, man. Let's listen.
It's my intention that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort. This is going to take some time. The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way until the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt. You know, we're not leaving until this job gets done. Not leaving until then. So I just want to say God bless everybody who got everyone harmed this morning and their families. And may God bless the first responders, who many of them risking their lives. And the reason I'm not going to take a lot of questions, there's remaining issues that are open that we got to determine what's going to happen in terms of the rescue mission and the like. But
Do you plan to go to Baltimore, sir? And if so, how quickly?
Don't.
I do, and as quickly as I can.
Don't
You
go
said
there.
the federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious. This was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you
That
mentioned
could be, but we're not going to wait for that to happen. We're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened.
We're not gonna wait for it. We're gonna just pay for it, man. The president added that he's directed his team to move heaven and earth to open the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible. Well, you can't perform miracles.
The Port of Baltimore is one of the nation's largest shipping hubs. And I've been there a number of times as a senator and as a vice president. It handles a record amount of cargo last year. It's also the top port in America for both imports and exports of automobiles and light trucks. Around 850,000 vehicles go through that port every single year. And we're going to get it up and running again as soon as possible. 15,000 jobs depend on that port. And we're going to do everything we can to protect those jobs and help those workers. The bridge is also critical for travel, not just for Baltimore, but for the Northeast Corridor. Over 30,000 vehicles cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge on a daily basis. It's virtually, it's one of the most important elements for the economy in the Northeast and the quality of life. My transportation secretary is there now. As I told Governor Moore, I've directed my team to move heaven and earth to reopen the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible.
I'm just kind of looking at some of the other stuff that's trending, and it looks like there's actually a pretty bad accident on I-94 as well as, well, this one on I-95. So, well, we'll see what happens with that, but that is all that we have on the bridge. Now we're going to go back and do the show that I intended to do up until 1:30 this morning. Oops, that's not the tab that I wanted open. From the Daily Wire. Before the big news happened yesterday, Trump says he will post bond in cash after appeals court lowers ridiculous amount in New York civil fraud case. So, before all this happened, he came out and said, okay, I got it all. It's in cash. It can't be insured, but I've got it in cash. It's ready to go. Let's get this done. Because yesterday was supposed to be the day, the due date, the day that he had to get his bond in. If he was A, going to meet the deadline of Judge Engeron, and B, if he had any intent to appeal. Yesterday was supposed to be the day. It is no longer the day, by the way. But this is from Zach Jewell. After a ruling from a New York appeals court on Monday allowing him to post a significantly lower bond in a civil business fraud judgment, a former President Trump said he would soon post the now $175 million bond. I should rearrange this because this actually... Apparently I got this one wrong and I thought this was what he was going to do beforehand. Let's actually rearrange this. We'll put this after the Fox News article. Do it live, folks. We're going to do it live. So instead, we're going to go with Fox News to start with. Trump's $454 million judgment bond slashed by more than half in appeals court ruling. From Brooks Singman and Anders Hagstrom. An appeals court slashed the former president's bond payment on Monday, saying Trump must pay $175 million within the next 10 days. Trump had previously faced a Monday deadline to pay a $454 million bond payment that came as a result of a civil fraud allegation from the New York Attorney General Letitia James. A New York appeals court, hours before the deadline to post the $454 million, lowered that bond considerably. The court ordered Trump post $175 million bond within 10 days. Trump said he would abide by the appeals decision and post the $175 million bond. If Trump does not post the $175 million by the new deadline, it would effectively block James from attempts to seize Trump's assets as he continues to appeal the judgment by New York Judge Arthur Engeron. Judge Engeron has refused to obey the decision of the Appellate Division relative to the statute of limitations. It's the confrontation. It's the worst confrontation ever between a judge and those that rule above him. It's a very bad situation in which to place New York State and the rule of law. Engeron has disrespected the Appellate Division, and it's very clear and precise ruling. Trump posted on Truth Social on Monday. He should be made to do so, and at the very same time, release the gag order in all caps. Because it's Donald fucking Trump, and of course it's all caps. Trump said the appeals ruling Monday is the 5th time in this case that he's been overturned. A record. Trump blasted Engeron, saying his credibility and that of Letitia James has been shattered. We will abide by the decision of the Appellate Division. It's the greatest division, the best division. There are no better divisions than this one. And post either a bond equivalent, securities, or cash, Trump said. This also shows how ridiculous and outrageous Engeron's original decision was at $450 million. And then the caps came out. I did nothing wrong, and New York should never be put in a position like this again. Businesses are fleeing. Violent crime is flourishing. It's the worst. And it's very important that this be resolved in its totality as soon as possible. Thank you. Your favorite president. Trump said Engeron and Letitia James should be forced to explain why he ruled that Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million when in fact it was worth from 50 to 100 times that amount. How did the Attorney General of the state of New York force this corrupt judge to do that in order to help her narrative, and why? He posted in caps. Trump attorney Christopher Kise, reacting to the ruling, said it represents a great first step towards the ultimate reversal of a baseless and reckless judgment. The First Department no doubt recognized the rule of law must triumph over the political agenda of the AG. Kais said in a statement, President Trump is looking forward to a full and fair appellate process, which overturns the judgment and ends the AG's abuse of power and tyrannical pursuit of the front-running candidate for the President of the United States. So to break all this down into what it was that was brought up into this, it's the fact that the original demand, which I think in and of itself was completely outrageous, was that before the Donald could go in and put an appeal to this case, because, well, let's face it, in something like this, in a situation where there are no victims off of this, and several of the supposed victims of the fraud came and testified on Trump's behalf because, well, let's face it, this is fucking ridiculous. That they came out and said, well, before you can appeal, you have to pay the full amount of what we're fining you for this. We can't call it damages because there were no victims, but you have to come out and pay the full amount before you can even think about having an appeal, which is asinine. It's stupid. But the point was never to come back out and find a victim and recoup damages for said victim. The point always was to find a way to take the money away. And the judgment itself has not gone away yet at this point. That's for the appeals court. But what we have done in this particular appellate court is to reduce the amount down so that the right to appeal isn't taken away from even the front runner for the president. Now, if we back this up a little bit, then we start to see we'll start to see some of the reactions and the meltdown from this, including a hilarious video of Tristan Snell breaking down an MSDNC almost in tears. I watched the video before we got started. When we look at something like this, they thought that they had him at this point. They could go out, they could get a sympathetic judge with an AG who went out and campaigned on doing things like this. And say, okay, well, we can come back out here. We can call him broke if he doesn't come up with the money right away. Or we can go back and seize the assets. And I mean, even the Beanie Boy himself was coming out and saying, okay, well, here's what's going to happen. If you look at this now, we're going to have a civil war. Because Letitia James is going to come out and she's going to seize the Trump Tower. And she's going to say, oh, well, we're sorry. That was only worth $1 million. So you still owe $453 million plus interest. And it's going to be civil war. And they're going to continue to do this and go down the line on all the properties. Now, the foreign properties they wouldn't have as much access to, but the local ones, especially in New York, would be ripe for the taking. And there were thoughts of the trolling that could have come along with something like this too. My favorite one was the suggestion of, okay, go on, you can take Trump Tower. Oh, by the way, I took all the businesses out of there. Everybody who generates revenue, they're out of there. And I filled every room with the homeless and our wonderful immigrant friends from south of the border. My tower is full of it. Don't you love these people? They're all in this tower that you've got. For me to you. That would have been the ultimate troll. Because what do they do at that point? Do they kick all the people out because they're undesirable in Midtown Manhattan? Do they house them and not have a return on any of this? What do they do at that point? I'm sure they can't sell the building with those people in it. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for James on Monday said Trump is still facing accountability. Yeah, and the fine itself, or I'm sorry, well, it is a fine, but the civil judgment itself has not gone away. It's just, again, it's available to go back and be appealed. And if I remember my bond law correctly, because of the appeal that was put in and the decision that this judge came down to, that he has the 10% rule as well, where he only has to have 10% in cash and assets on the table to go forward with an appeal. So he could get away and get out of this for $17.5 million, which would be fully refundable upon the win of an appeal. The court has already found that he engaged in years of fraud to falsely inflate his net worth and unjustly enrich himself, his family, his organization. James's spokesperson said the $464 million judgment plus interest against Trump and other defendants still stands. So, but it is going forward, and like the Daily Wire said, even though I thought he was talking, or Mr. Jewell was talking about the full amount, like the Daily Wire said, he will pay this amount in cash. Let's listen.
Thank you very much. What's your collateral bond? Cash. Is there a way to really pardon yourself?
Chad.
Did you catch the question?
What's your collateral on the bond?
What's your collateral on the bond? And he turned quickly on his heels and said, cash. All right.
Cash, and then did the Chad walk away. That is such a Chad move right there. And there is a big difference, too, because, I mean, I realize that I've said the same thing on the channel where Biden will come back and take and walk away. Well, taking any questions, but Biden is also an employee of the people. Currently. Mr. Trump wants to become an employee of the people, but currently, right now, he's a private citizen. If he wants to tell the press to go and stuff it, that's his prerogative to do so. Whereas Biden, his decisions affect lives because he's making decisions that affect the entire country. And yes, he should be held to account for those. That's the difference between a Chad and a cowardly move. This is a Chad move. He's like, yep, I'm putting down cash and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. No more questions. Chad move. Newsweek telling us why we need a $175 million bond. From Tom Norton. Trump has been handed a potential lifeline after an appeals court on Monday reduced the appeal bond on his civil fraud case to $175 million, down from nearly $500 million, while giving him another 10 days to come up with a payment. Trump had been ordered to pay $355 million plus interest after Engoron found he had filed fraudulent financial statements. With interest, it came to a total of $454 million. Trump was planning to appeal, but he needed to pay a $464 billion bond, not billion, by the way, for himself and $10 million for his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, by Monday, an amount the legal team at one point called a practical impossibility. As Trump faced the prospect of having his bank accounts frozen and property seized, the New York Appeals Court ruled the former president now only needed to pay $175 million. The former president responded to the ruling, thanking the appellate division and calling Engoron a disgrace in a public statement. What happened to the $464 million bond? The Trump legal team previously said that paying the original bond amount would be a practical impossibility. According to a court filing, Trump's team said, despite the scouring the market, we have been unsuccessful in our effort to obtain a bond for the judgment amount for defendants for the simple reason that obtaining an appeal bond for $464 million is a practical impossibility under the circumstances presented. Eric said on Sunday that the bond size was simply not commercially available. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these bond companies, they're insurance companies. They don't even have that kind of cash on hand. A lot of banks don't really have that kind of cash on hand. That is a bunch of money. I mean, there is a technical term for that. There's a technical measurement for the amount of money that is. It's called a buttload. Oh, I missed a spicy one from our friend the Mogwai over on the Twitch side. Apparently the Mogwai missed the lyrics that I put in the beginning here. We're going to step back just for a second to the bridge story. The Mogwai says, there's a chance that someone was listening to Bridge Over Troubled Waters when that ship hit. I'm sorry, too soon. Mogwai, I opened the show today with Seven Bridges Road by the Eagles. Letitia James is hell-bent on political vendetta against my father with zero regard for the lives of thousands of hardworking New Yorkers who make their livings in our buildings. And that's one avenue to things too, but a lot of the pushback right now that we're seeing, I think I've got a video on this one. No, I don't. But I know that, there are people, once they found out about this, who were ready to pick up and move and leave New York. Because what happens within the next one? When they say the thing that pisses off the Attorney General, the Governor, the Mayor of New York City. And suddenly it's very easy to see a situation. Or, you didn't pay into your hush money payments? And I know it's a tired trope of the Libertarian Party to call the government the biggest mob in the world, but they're doing stuff like this. I would be afraid to be in the jurisdiction where this can happen if I was a business owner, especially with billions of dollars of assets on the New York skyline. I would have a leash on all my employees saying, hey, you can't say that about the government, who loves us and cares for us. Don't ever say anything bad about Letitia James, because I don't want to lose my business. While Trump indicated on Friday he had almost $500 million in cash available, the new ruling in New York suggests he may no longer need to empty such a vast cash reserve. What happens if Trump can't get the bond? Evidence suggests Trump could post the new bond. Earlier this month, he posted a similar size bond of $94 million in an appeal against the E. Jean Carroll defamation case. His claims about holding $500 million cash reserves alongside the greater likelihood of securing a $175 million surety means he now stands a much better chance of appealing without risking seizure of assets. The number is still a staggering sum that will sit alongside his other court costs and financial constraints. News media has contacted media representatives for Trump for comment. And if he loses the appeal, he will still have to pay the $454 million, or appeal it to a higher court. And I do have a feeling this one's going to the Supreme Court, and I have a feeling that everybody on the Fifth Avenue Strip and everybody on the New York skyline is going to cheer for this to go to the Supreme Court, because again, it would hamper and limit the ability of the state to go after political dissidents. Even if the people in New York sit back on 100% in line with Letitia James and Kathy Hochul and the people that are making the decisions for their lives. You think back to, who did Lenin kill first after the Soviet Revolution? The revolutionaries were the first people to die. So yes, this is going to have huge implications for New York. Especially, again, if it goes through. Let's see. Let's grab one here. Let's drop a couple of these while we're at it. From The Hill, former RNC chair, Trump bond decision makes absolutely no sense. From Sarah Fortinsky. Maybe. Or maybe The Hill is just going to have a big-ass heart attack. Let's put a refresh on this and see if it fixes things. There, that's better. Former RNC chair Michael Steele criticized the New York Appeals Court decision to pause the enforcement of a multi-million-dollar judgment against the former president and his company over deceitful business practices. In a terse Monday order, a 5-judge state appeals court panel said it would delay the enforcement of the judgment, the Trump Organization, and top executives with interest. If they post bond within 10 days, the bond amount was also slashed by more than half. Yet again, Trump gets special treatment with his own private system of justice. Yeah, that's the new cope that they have going around here right now. Steele, a regular critic of Trump, said in a post on X, formerly Twitter, the New York Appeals Court has decided to give Trump more time to pay less money, reducing his bond from $454 to $175 million, and giving him 10 days to get the money. This makes absolutely no sense. No, it makes perfect sense. You just don't like it because he showed your party for being the corrupt assholes that they are. It makes 100% perfect sense for them to do that. In fact, I would like to see it lower. Because I don't think Americans should be denied their right to appeal. Well, Trump had recently said on Truth Social he has nearly $500 million on hand. He said he told state lawyers last year in depositions he had subsequently in excess of $400 million in cash. His lawyers say he is facing a liquidity problem. Trump was also recently forced to pay $91 million in appeal bond in writer E. Jean Carroll's defamation case. That still blows my mind, the fact that you have to pay all or most of your judgment before you can come out and make an appeal. I would call that crap if it was me. Oh, this is the person who's leaving here. KC Patriot says, after witnessing what's been carried out against Trump by the overreach of the corrupt New York City government, private equity fund manager Grant Cardone says, F you to New York, and takes his $500,000 investment to Florida. More will follow. Let's listen.
Alert, a live look at the Trump Tower area where the former president will soon depart for his hush money hearing in lower Manhattan. As the deadline for former President Trump to secure a whopping $500 million bond approaches at midnight tonight. If he doesn't make it, it could eventually put some of his most iconic New York properties, including Trump Tower, up for sale. Private equity fund manager Grant Cardone joins us from Miami, where he is safe away from the craziness of New York. Grant, good morning to you.
Steve, good to see you.
We were talking about this topic a couple of weeks ago, and you said something amazing. You said you had about $500 million to invest in real estate, and you were thinking about New York until this Trump thing happened. Explain that.
Yeah, well, I thought it was going to be a great opportunity. You know, I felt like New York had finally recovered from COVID and the vaccine mandates. And look, every piece of great real estate has its price. And I thought this would be the year that we could invest in New York City and take advantage of a correction in the marketplace.
Right.
When the judgment came down against Trump, it became clear to me that in New York City, at least New York City, I don't actually own my property. Any government overreach or out of control government could come in and seize my property. I see what happening to Trump as a sanction against Trump and a seizure of his property. So we decided not to invest there. Last week, we placed that same $500 million in Florida.
Well, and it all comes down to property valuations. And I was talking to somebody in my family who's in your business, and they said that essentially, you know, companies like yours or companies that lent him the money do assessments all the time to figure out what their stuff is worth. Clearly, if they gave him the money, they didn't have a problem with this, right?
1,000%. They would have done multiple assessments or appraisals on the property based on either the income of the property or the comps of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Many of his properties don't have comps. They're very, very unique properties. I personally know that he has very, very little debt on these properties. So the only way you can seize somebody's properties is that you would do something like what they're doing. Otherwise, it would be a debt call because he had too much debt. In the case of Trump, he has less than 10% debt on all of his properties, which is amazing for a real estate guy.
Well, let's see if more.
And I mean, he brings it up right there. I've seen other people bring up, and they thought that we always talk about if you still have to pay taxes on it, even after you paid off your house. It's not really your house, you're renting it from the government. And I see merit into something like that, but this is legitimate The government is looking at your properties and saying, you stay in line, otherwise we will make your life a living hell, and we can seize your property at this point. We will find something and a friendly judge to get you on. So yeah, I wouldn't invest in New York. I'm glad to see this guy is going. And again, I think we would see a few more investors come out of New York that already have property there. Going back to a little bit before the judgment, and the Biden campaign trying to do something mimetic, that is going to fail, and I think people have already stopped talking about. I almost skipped the story because me talking about it right now just gives it a little bit more life. And I'm pretty sure it was over at this point already from the Daily Wire. Biden campaign rolls out nickname for Trump. Strategists say that's a bad idea. From Zach Jewell. The Biden campaign is taking a page from former President Trump's playbook, rolling out a nickname for the president's political rival as the 2024 race heats up. In an email to supporters on Thursday, the Biden-Harris campaign referred to Trump as Broke Don, copying a strategy made popular by the former president during his 2016 and 2020 campaigns. Team Biden's nickname for Trump comes after the Democrats' campaign reported a massive fundraising edge over Trump and the RNC. Yeah, that's because he has a lot of the big business people. They don't want you to know that. They want you to think that everything that they have for this massive fundraising edge is college students giving up their last dollar to say that we don't want Trump. That's not what it is. The Biden admin is funded by billionaires who get to have cheap labor imported across the border that can't say no, because otherwise they'll go back and get deported. And, of course, for regulating their competitors out of business, especially startups that try to take the market. According to a report filed on Wednesday with the Federal Election Commission, the Biden campaign ended February with $71 million of cash on hand, which combined with the DNC puts the president's war chest at $97 million, Politico reported. Biden now has double the combined money of Trump campaign and the RNC, which has $44.8 million on hand. Not a winning campaign. Broke Don hides in basement, the Biden campaign email said. Trump can't raise money, man. He isn't campaigning, and is letting convicts and conspiracy theories run his campaign. The problem with this, and I know what they're trying to do when they do this. The problem is it doesn't work because they're having corporations, advertising campaigns come up with the slogans, focus test them, put them through a bunch of groups and say, okay, well, we think that this works among the 10 million people we focus tested it against, so let's go back and put this out. This is not memetics. Memetics just happen, and they work. You don't need a corporation or an advertising agency to come back out and put this out. You just come back and you say something that sticks in people's minds on a stage. Cricket Hillary, Sleepy Joe. And the worst part of it is he's not broke. They tried another one too. They tried a different one over the weekend. They tried to do Don Corleone, which that's what I thought this article was going to be about. And that's also fallen out of the news at this point because the left can't meme. They have to come back out and explain the meme, or again, like I said, come back out and have 7,000 people come back out and focus test it before they release it out to the public. Whereas a couple people on 4chan, I almost called them a name, but you do not want to make 4chan mad. I am afraid of 4chan. I'll come right out and admit I'm afraid of 4chan. But a couple of people on 4chan can come back out and post a couple pictures of a frog and they'll take the internet by storm. And even their memes trying to make this meme happen are a wall of text. But the funniest one off of this We can't watch the video on Fox News because it's archived. But don't worry, I have the video. MSDNC guest melts down over judge slashing Trump's $454 million bond payment. Private system of judgment from Hannah Panrek. A guest on MSDNC Monday became infuriated by the judge's ruling in decreasing the former president's bond payment in the New York civil fraud case, and claimed Trump has his own private system of justice. Tristan Snell, a former New York assistant AG, was asked during MSDNC's Jose Diaz-Balart reports about what the process might have looked like in a courtroom. Do I read the wall of text, or do I let the crying Tristan Snell do it for me? You already know the answer to that.
And honestly, this is so infuriating, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know if I care what the process is that these judges are arriving at. Whatever it is, it's flawed. I can tell you that much. I mean, David put it well. This is a different process for this person. We have decided that he gets his own private court of justice. He has a private plane. He has private clubs that he lives in. You know, apparently, he basically fashioned himself his own private militia to try to take over the Capitol. You know, now he's getting his own private system of justice. This is an absolute travesty. It would not happen for anybody else. Anybody else, it would be like, sorry, buddy, you lost, pay up. For him, he gets his own set of rules.
Well, he doesn't exactly have his own set of rules. It's the fact of, I mean, it's his own private justice system, or at least the private justice system you guys tried to fashion for him. It's just he is being made to face down regulations that none of us would have ever thought to have had to face down, like securing your full judgment before you even tried to appeal. Yes, it is a two-tier justice system. It's just not going the direction that you want it to go in the two tiers. No, Tristan Snell, especially as an assistant AG in New York, would you ever be expected to pay your full bond before you appeal the case against you? Not that anybody would be brave enough to bring a case against you in New York, because AG James would just shut it down because you say the right things about abortion.
Legally, Tristan, how is that done?
We just saw it. They just decided that the appellate court has now just decided they're going to swoop in and just change it. And that's it. And now the AG's office can now try to go
okay, he's going to cry.
Them, I believe, I don't know what the details are because you just told us. I'm guessing this is coming from the First Department, Appellate Division, First Department. That's the intermediate court.
That's correct, by the way.
That would be issuing a decision here. I don't know if there's a remedy for the AG's office to go up to the Court of Appeals, which is our high court here in New York, and try to get them to basically countermand this order. But in my view, this is without knowing.
And that's the other part that drives me nuts off of this. Now, the defendant in the case has come back and won the appeal, and they want the judge, just the appeal on what it takes to set the full appeal into motion. And this guy wants you to say, no, you have to pay $500,000 for the privilege of being able to appeal your case. Fuck yourself. That's what I have to say about that. I could add something about an iron stick, but if I say those two parts together, we will get a strike on YouTube. Glorifying violence! At least saying them separately like that, we can trick the robots a little bit. If you think you've got such an open and shut case, which I'm sure you're telling all your followers that you have a open and shut case, then fine, take it to appeals. But you know what? I don't think you've got the open and shut case that you think you do.
More, unless there's some sort of other extenuating circumstance that we're going to learn here, this appears to be an absolute gross miscarriage of justice.
So let's.
That's a gross miscarriage of justice. Oh my God! AOC biscuit getting into the fray. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez urges New York to seize Trump's assets. He ordered essentially a terrorist attack, okay, puppy? From Daily Wire News. The Honorable and Venerable Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, pushed the state of New York to seize former President Trump's assets in the state if he cannot secure an unprecedented bond when he appeals his civil fraud case. This is prior to the reduction, by the way. Seabiscuit made the remarks on the $464 million bond during a Sunday interview with Jake Tapper on State of Disunion. Okay, papi, I think that KTZed James has been handling the case with tremendous skill, okay, papi? It is ultimately her determination, but it is my belief, okay, papi, that all people should be treated equally under law. Unless they're evil and orange, then we should treat them worse. And if that seizure of assets would be pursued by any other American, then Trump should be treated the same. As far as political implications go, I think that we are dealing with politically is much larger, puppy, than the much more grave and serious pressure of having this judgment against Donald Trump. In him being in the degree of debt and financial pressures that he is under and what he is subject to in order to obtain those assets, okay, puppy, I think that what the risk is in not seizing the assets and the open window that exists in him trying to secure these bonds and funds under other means, okay? That is an exhausting accent to do. I have not had to do AOC accent in a long time. Wow, that takes a lot of energy. I used to do that at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning every morning too. But with what AOC is saying here, going back to that and taking out the ridiculous accent, which I understand. This is for you, Elaine. I know that she doesn't have that accent. But when she tries to play the I'm the Latina from the block thing, and everybody sees through it because she's from Westchester, that's why I use that accent for her. I know that she does not naturally have a Latin accent. But going back to what she's saying, of course, it's my belief that all people should be treated under the law, and if the seizure of assets would be pursued for any other American, then Trump should be treated the same. The problem is that nobody else would have been put in this position to begin with. Without a complaining witness, this lawsuit wouldn't have been brought forward, and if there was a sort of fraud for anybody else that could actually be taken in front of a grand jury, we wouldn't be sitting on a civil suit. We would be having a criminal trial. But the problem is that Letitia James and Engeron couldn't find a statute to bring forward to him, so they went through and they searched his bank records and found, oh, well, he said this cost this much. We don't think it cost this much. And the banks gave him loans over it. And put it through a civil court because they would have never got this past a grand jury. That's the difference that we have going on here. Nine News just saying, and we know this already, the court did not reduce the penalty to $175 million. No. They just brought the bond amount down so we can go back and feasibly appeal. We can skip that one entirely. But Kyle Griffin, Democrat Paige Schill, quoting a spokesperson for AG James, says Trump is still facing accountability for his staggering fraud. The court has already found he engaged in years of fraud to falsely inflate his net worth and unjustly enrich himself, his family, and his organization. The $464 million judgment plus interest against Trump and other defendants still stands. That is, and again, unless it's absolutely true, I don't give the benefit of the doubt to these paid chills, but yes, that is 100% true. Yes, it still stands. You are correct. Unless it goes away in appeal. Art Candy commented on this one, says, dropping that by 63% in order to appeal is a grave miscarriage of justice. And I responded and I said, you mean a miscarriage of persecution. So that is the Bond case. A lot to go over there today. And from here, I think we are going to wait until Thursday for the rest of it. There will be no stream tomorrow. I'm going to do my Thursday chores tomorrow on Wednesday. So we won't do Final Fantasy X tomorrow. I know, I keep putting that off and I keep putting that off, but we're not going to do Final Fantasy X tomorrow because I can't just go and stream every single night in a week. I do need to have one night where I get stuff done after work. So stream canceled for tomorrow, and we will be back on Thursday to finish out the news. I think, because I had to divide this up into windows, by the way. You know what? No, let's do the one story, because I've only got a couple stories off this one. And this one, actually, technically, I was going to do next. So, before we head out of here, we'll talk about Diddy. Disclose.tv with the reporting first. Now, federal agents have raided the home of American rapper and record producer Sean Diddy Combs. Do I think anything is going to come out of this? No. Do I think this is a distraction? Yes. Absolutely. But we'll talk a bit about what's happening with that. Let's watch the video first.
Combs, the rapper and music executive, perhaps being linked to a sex trafficking investigation.
He got some shots of a few people coming out of the home. Those people have been detained. Now, we're trying to still connect the dots. We do have some sources on scene here that we're getting this information from. We were actually the first ones here with about 30 different law enforcement vehicles at least. There are 3 Bearcats on scene here. This just all unfolded, Sandra, I would say, less than 10 minutes ago. We got here even before the crime scene tape came up. So we're just down the hill. If you look up this street where Tony is right now to the right, you'll see one of those Bearcats and law enforcement. And on the other side of those bushes, basically, is that home that is registered to Bad Boy Films, which is part of Bad Boy Entertainment. And the home in particular is registered not only to Bad Boy Films, but to one of P. Diddy's daughters.
They are heavily armed, and they've been very tactful, would probably be the best word to use, as they made entry into this home this afternoon. We actually watched them as they made their way through one of these side gates, and as soon as they got inside the home, one of the first things they did was made their way into this garage that you see is open right there. Now, they did take a couple people into custody. We witnessed that. Now, are they under arrest? Are they just being asked about what they know? That I can't answer, but I can tell you there's 3 people right there that were taken into custody, were inside that home at the time of the raid.
We did see a bunch.
I'm guessing they were private security who were attempting to protect the property when they heard somebody come charging through the door, not knowing that they were in the process of assaulting a federal officer. But yes, we've had several homes off of this, and it appears to be in connection to sex trafficking. From ABC 7 Eyewitness News out of Los Angeles. Homeland Security raids Holmby Hills home associated with Diddy Film Company. No author given. Homeland Security agents on Monday raided a Holmby Hills mansion associated with rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs and his production company. It's believed the raid, as well as a similar operation on Combs' home in Miami, was associated with a federal sex trafficking investigation based out of New York. Combs has recently been associated with legal troubles that include lawsuits over alleged sexual assaults and sex trafficking. HSI agents were conducting their operations in the 200 block of South Mapleton in Holmby Hills, a wealthy LA enclave known as the home for celebrities and the Playboy Mansion. The address is associated with the Combs Bad Boy Films production company. Agents were seen detaining 2 men who were later identified as Diddy's sons. Sources told ABC News the 2 sons were not under arrest, but were being detained outside as agents searched the property. Dozens of agents were seen searching through the property, bringing out boxes, and even looking through cushions in outdoor pool furniture. Neighbors tell Eyewitness News they frequently see parties at the property lasting all night, but they weren't aware of any illegal activities. Federal agents were also at a home in Miami associated with Combs. Earlier today, Homeland Security Investigations New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI LA, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. We will provide further information as it becomes available, the Department of Homeland Security said in a statement released to the media. And, I mean, this is big. Typically, when you do a sex trafficking operation, it's the FBI that gets involved. Sometimes the CIA, if there are coyotes involved, if it's coming through the border. Typically, Homeland Security doesn't get involved unless there are government actors and rumors of espionage going along with the trafficking. I can't say this for sure because I haven't read the affidavit. I haven't read the probable cause report or anything like that. I don't even know if that's been released to the public at this point, but I know having Homeland Security get involved it's not typical, and it usually means that something bigger is going up. I would love to read the probable cause affidavit for this. I don't know if it's public yet or not. But when you see an agency like that getting involved, there's something else happening here. From ABC, Diddy's LA and Miami homes are raided by federal agents. From Aaron Katursky, Angeline, Jane Bernabe, and Luke Barr at Good Morning America. Sean Combs' LA and Miami homes were raided by federal agents on Monday, according to authorities. A Homeland Security investigation spokesperson said in a statement that the raid was executed as part of an ongoing investigation. Law enforcement sources said that while the search warrant is being executed in LA, Combs' sons were being detained outside the home. Okay, so those were his kids, as is customary in such circumstances, and then released without charges. Earlier today, Homeland Security Investigations New York executed a law enforcement action as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI LA, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners, the spokesperson said. We will provide further information when it becomes available. Law enforcement sources familiar with the matter said the searches are being carried out at the hip-hop producer's properties as part of a federal investigation led by SDNY into alleged human trafficking. No criminal charges have been filed in the investigation. Good Morning America has reached out to Combs' lawyer for comment. In December, a complaint was filed against Combs by a Canadian woman identified only as Jane Doe. Side note, can you imagine the song that would be come out and written as a parody to the classic by the Guess Who was already covered by Lenny Kravitz? Canadian woman, gonna mess your mind. Canadian woman, gonna mess your mind. Sorry, completely off topic there. Who said she was sex trafficked and gang raped in 2003 when she was 17 and in the 11th grade. The lawsuit names Combs, former Bad Boy Entertainment president Harvey Pierre, and an unnamed third defendant, and claims Pierre and the third unnamed defendant approached the teen at a lounge in Detroit, where Pierre allegedly told her he was best friends with Combs and proceeded to call him. The suit, which contains photos, claims Pierre and the unnamed defendant convinced the teen to take a private jet to Combs' studio in New York City, where she alleged she was plied with drugs and alcohol and gang raped by the three defendants. Combs took to social media on December 6th to denounce the allegations against him, writing in a post, "Enough is enough." Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday, he said. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Now, this is contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and as is always the case, I have not read the criminal affidavit. There have been no charges filed, and all suspects are innocent until proven guilty in this area. I would be interested to see what the probable cause is that they have, or even what it is they're searching for at this point. A minor on a jet crossing state lines after already being out of the country of origin is a big deal, but all suspects are innocent until proven guilty. But I'm guessing if they're pulling Bearcats in Homeland Security, they have a little bit more than word of mouth than one victim to go by as well. But nobody will know for a fact until the affidavit comes out, and nobody will be able to prove anything until Combs gets his day in court. I don't know when that is going to happen because, mysteriously, Combs was out of the country when this all happened. Last one from CNN, and then we'll go into things I like and things I hate. And Dual Helix's favorite segment of the show, of course. Searches at Combs' homes relate to an ongoing sex trafficking investigation, law enforcement sources say. From Holmes Librand and Josh Campbell. Search warrant activity at homes belonging to musician and producer Sean Diddy Combs is related to an ongoing sex trafficking investigation, a law enforcement source told CNN. The source would not specify whether Combs himself was the specific target, citing the sensitive nature of the investigation. Responding to reports of raids at the homes belonging to Combs, the Department of Homeland Security Investigations New York confirmed it had executed law enforcement actions. As part of an ongoing investigation, law enforcement could be seen Monday at Combs' home in Miami area and at his home in Los Angeles, according to CNN journalists on site. Why were there CNN journalists on site so quickly? Let's see. What do we have going on over here? Mogwai says Thursday show. Yeah, I knew before I sat down. I knew before I heard the Bridge story that there was going to be a Thursday show this week. When the Bridge story came out, I was thinking Saturday show even. The Mogwai says, you mean that's not how she sounds? Next thing you will say, the sucking sound from Lindsay's house isn't a hose getting kissed. Oof. A Dual Helix has found a mess of things that I cannot read on YouTube. Oh, man. Dual Helix is getting spicy over there on the Rumble side. I like it, though. The Mogwai says, look, that one is carrying the remains of Diddy's career. Please let this end of the reporting of P. Diddy in the back of a Ford Bronco driven by Al Kellings. No... In Diddy's case, the Ford Bronco was a G5 Piper Cub. It's a private plane for those of you who don't get that reference. If you got that reference, you need new knees and own a clapper. Gonna mess your mind, eh? Let me see if there's anything in this that I can read. Dual Helix says AOC is crashing hard. Her face is getting ugly in Turbo Time. Well, I like Puerto Rican women, so I still think she's cute, even though she's married. TMZ released footage of his bedroom post-raid. I've not seen that, but I will look into that for Thursday. Let's see. Can't read that, can't read that, can't read that. Can't read that. Rosanna said he is her homie. I can read that one. Can't read that, can't read that, can't read that. Can't read that. Really can't read that. The Mogwai is downloading Rumble just for Helix. There's the confession right there. Yeah, you can't read the rest of that. One day I'll get YouTube banned. Although I still go on Twitch, so I do want to keep that one around because that's a good one for video game stuff. Not to mention I want to watch my friends on Twitch too, and they'll ban my username. It's not clear whether Combs or the other residents are the target of law enforcement actions. CNN has reached out to representatives for Combs for comment. Again, I don't know if there's going to be a conviction. I don't know if Combs is under investigation. There, again, has not been a charge for any of this yet. But I'm telling you, if Homeland Security is involved, they have reasonable suspicion of something. Which means the grand jury is going to be impaneled at some point. Alright. So, on Thursday, I will touch on the TMZ stuff. I will look into that and check and see if I can get some stuff on the Combs story for that. But on Thursday, we're going to, unless something major happens in the political actions case, we're going to be talking, we'll start about McDaniels and we'll talk about Candace Owens as well, for what little bit I can say on YouTube. And the Rittenhouse thing, we'll do that on Thursday. We'll talk about some foreign news, including the Moscow attack, and the Rafah attacks going on, and the story that nobody in the media covered except for the Daily Wire. And the Bobulinski hearing, we'll be talking about that, plus the little bit of political shift based on the fact that the budget got passed and what's going to happen there. So that'll be Thursday night. Come back and join me for that. Oops. You guys don't get to see my desktop. Not that there's anything on there that I need to hide, but still. But for now, I've got some things that I like and some things that I hate, and we'll do the rules of acquisition, which I got everything else up, but I didn't mark that up. So, let's do that. Scrolling down to the bottom. So, we did the 287th rule of acquisition, always get someone else to do the lifting, from End Vector, a DS9 comic. We also have the 288th rule of acquisition from the same comic source. Our 288th rule of acquisition for the Ferengi, who are a hyper-capitalistic society, and their religion involves, if you can follow these 400 rules of acquisition to the best of your ability, the better you can follow them, the better social standing you will have at the end of your life to bid on your next life in the Divine Treasury. We go over one of these rules every week, talk about how it is used in its source material, how it can be used in real life, or if it is one of those that is put out there because Roddenberry was an avowed communist and hated capitalism, and therefore wanted to use these rules to mock capitalism and our free market way of life. Our 288th rule of acquisition is never get into anything that you can't get out of. Those are words to live by right then and there. That is something that you should be applying in your real life. Now, I've not read the End Vector DS9 comic, although I'll be looking into it after this. But what I do know is that you should always leave yourself in out in any situation. Your apartment that you live in should always know all of your exits, how to get in and out. A restaurant that you go into, know your front, back, your emergency exits, and a way to get out in case something bad should happen. But you should do the same in your transactions, your financial transactions, your business dealings, your career, and anything else that you do. At some point, something is going to shift in your life. You're going to want to pursue a better job, get a different vehicle, maybe move. Maybe one of your parents got sick and you have to move miles away to go and take care of them. And you don't want to be in a position or you can't just get up and do that. I know one of the things that was brought up when I was very, very young and starting out in life was a former employer that I was on very good terms with at the time had offered to co-sign on a truck for me to make sure I could get back and forth to work. And my cousin actually brought it up and said, hey, just one thing to remember is don't ever let your boss co-sign on anything. And I mean, that's something you should take care of on any stretch of the imagination is don't let somebody in a position like that be in a financial position for you over the top as well. I know a lot of people do it and they do fairly well with it, but you get in that situation. Now, in the situation that I was in, this was pre-Boston. And as hard as my life got when I lived out there, I wouldn't trade the fact that I lived out there for the world. But I would have never had the opportunity because I would have owed my boss and I would have owed the allegiance and I wouldn't have been really allowed to move because he helped me buy my truck for me. And he could just go back and revoke that in a second. Always leave yourself an out. Don't get into anything that you can't get out of. Guard your finances, guard your position, and make sure that if you get into a financial situation, you can find your way back out of it. I think this Campos dig has legs. I don't know what that is referring to, but I don't know if I should know that either. Let's do a couple things that I like and a couple things that I hate. So, I did some movie watching, and we'll talk more about the Hunger Games trilogy on Thursday. In fact, I set up things I like and things that I hate today because I was planning on already having a Thursday show tonight. But one of the things I did last weekend, because I had some downtime while I was folding clothes and I had just finished out the Hunger Games, as I had sat down, I said, you know what, I want to fold clothes from laundry day, and I'm going to watch King of the Hill. And I sat down and I saw that Ghostbusters was up on my suggested on Hulu. So you know what? I sat down and watched that instead. It's been years since I've seen the original Ghostbusters, by the way. Great movie. Probably one of the better ones that I'd seen. And I've seen so many times over the edited for TV version of it. But it's one of those things that it just gets way better when you watch it in its entirety on TV. Now, one thing to be careful of when you're watching things on Hulu is for an old movie like Ghostbusters, you get the original theatrical release the way that it was intended to be seen for everything. But I watched Super Troopers on Hulu as well, which they use the extended director's cut. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I did not want to see Kevin Heffernan's junk in the scene where they were flowering him in the shower and hazing him. And you don't see that in the original DVD version, but in the director's cut you do. And yeah, it's something you don't want to see. But as far as Ghostbusters go, great movie. Even better if you're not watching the edited for TV version. There was, what was it? The original Austin Powers. I watched on HBO with my cousin for the first time. I had never seen the non-edited for TV version before that. There was a lot of stuff that got left out, just completely cut from the script for the edited for TV version. I'd seen Spy Who Shagged Me on its VHS version. But anyway, that's enough filibuster off of this. Let's watch the original theatrical trailer for the 1984 Ghostbusters film, which came out the same year that I was born.
Ghosts.
Hello, Ghostbusters.
They're real.
You do? You have?
They're here. Ghostbusters.
Hey, anybody see a ghost?
They catch the ghost that won't stay dead. They're armed. They're dangerous.
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
All right, that's bad. Okay. All right, important safety tip. Thanks, Egon.
They're professionals.
Oh, I'm the chairman of the largest paranormal removal company in America.
You see it?
They're all that stands between you and the end of the world.
The city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion. Real wrath of God type stuff. Exactly. Fire and brimstone coming down from the sky. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Your girlfriend lives in the corner penthouse of Spook Central.
You want this body?
Is this a trick question?
Got your stick? Hold! Beat him up! Smoke it! Make him hard! Ready!
Ghostbusters. Starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis. Coming to save the world. Ghostbusters.
We came, we saw, we kicked it.
Fantastic movie. I'm sure that I can't say if you've never seen it because I'm sure that everybody here has seen this movie. If it's been a while, go back and watch it again. It holds up. Harold Ramis gave the performance of his lifetime, and the funniest thing about it is when Ramis directs Murray, it's just, here's the suggestion of what your character should say, and Murray pretty much ad-libs his entire script for it, and it turns out well. You love to see it. Again, if you haven't seen it for a while, go watch it again. It's great. I might watch 2 tonight, just on a whim, you know? Or maybe I'll just watch King of the Hill again. All right, other things that I like. A reminder that there is new new one-off video, not contemporary, that came out this week. It's a 25-minute video. I apologize for the length of it. But I laid out what it is that I need to see in order to vote Donald Trump in 2024. And it's a pretty extensive list. It's a pretty detailed list. I actually, usually when I make these one-off videos like this, pretty much like I'm doing now, I ad-lib everything. But I did make a list, a bullet point list of the things that needed to be in this video and what I needed to see off of that. I think it's reasonable. Stop talking about November 3rd, plan to curb spending, border plan, provisions for leftists shutting down their economies because they know it works, and a way to continue the movement. It's an extensive list. I gave a lot of examples. You guys should go check that out, that it's right here on this channel if you have not already. And please, especially again with something shorter and one-off like that, go share that around. Tell the people out there about this and see what it is they agree on and what they can do and what they can't do and what they want to see out of the next 4 years. Let's get over here. You don't remember? What am I not remembering? I don't remember. Of course, I don't know when that message came in either. Other things that I like is this right wing. Elon Musk lays out his personal beliefs, says his position is centrist. From Virginia Kruta. This was an interesting one. Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk voices confusion over political partisanship in a post shared by his X platform, saying that while he believed himself to be more of a centrist, his critics seemed certain that he was a right wing. Yeah. They think that he is far right. Musk is inspired by another post from Sophie at NetCapGirl that read, "Going back in time to try to explain how crazy it is that we have a guy who makes electric cars and rocket ships and brain computer interfaces, yet a bunch of people hate him because they don't like his politics or whatever, having them show me a cave drawing of the astronaut meme. Musk replied with a list of things he believed were important to support in society, explaining that what he saw was a battle to the death between rational and the anti-civilizational woke mind virus. Musk says, and I'll skip the paraphrasing from the Daily Wire and go right to the X. Quoting Sophie, who says, going back in time to try to explain how crazy it is that we have a guy who makes electric cars and rocket ships and brain-computer interfaces, yet a bunch of people hate him because they don't like his politics or whatever, and having them show me a cave drawing of the astronaut meme. Elon quotes this out, says, "This is a battle to the death with the anti-civilizational woke mind virus. My positions are centrist. Secure borders. Safe and clean cities. Don't bankrupt America with spending." That's definitely right-wing, according to the people that are out there now. "Racism against any race is wrong. No sterilization below the age of consent." Is this right-wing? And although it shouldn't need to be said, I believe the Constitution and freedom of speech. I mean, when we think about it, that really is all right-wing, and even to the right of figures like Bush and Haley. Secure borders. No, because they also had the billionaire backing where they needed to provide workers for the billionaires to get cheap labor and put American workers who are higher paid out of jobs. Safe and clean cities. If you want safe cities, that must mean that you want to incarcerate people of a different skin tone than you. At least that's what our friends on the left keep telling us. Don't bankrupt America with spending. Well, they believe that the spending is going towards the poor, even though it's not. Racism against any race is wrong, owing to people who believe that you cannot be racist against white people. And no sterilization below the age of consent, which is thought to be a far-right view because you should just let children feel how they feel. You're going down the Jesus Campos route. So, I don't think that's right-wing. Rasmussen says, luckily most Americans still does too. 74% saying protecting freedom of speech is more important. 16% say protecting people from offensive speech is more important. So, and I don't think any of that's crazy right-wing. I follow most of that too. Again, most of my right-wing friends think it's outrageous that I think it's okay for a person to grow up and say, yeah, I still want to chop my junk off. And I'm 18, so I'm at the age of consent, so nobody else has to make the decision for me. Nobody else can stop me, but nobody else has to make the decision for me either. Live your life. Don't get me wrong, I still think it's tremendously stupid. I just don't think the government should be involved. I think it's asinine if you want to go back and do that, but I don't think the government should be involved. A little bit of science news for you. This may terrify you. I think it's fascinating. And I would love to see where AI goes without prodding from the authoritarian left. Researchers gave AI an inner monologue and it massively improved its performance. By Kumar's Afifi Sabet. Giving AI systems an inner monologue makes them considerably better at reasoning, new research shows. The method trains AI systems to think before they respond to prompts, just as many people consider what we should say next before we speak. Well, I know a few people that don't do that. This is different from the way scientists have trained mainstay AI chatbots like ChatGPT, which don't think about what they write or anticipate different possibilities for the next steps in a conversation. Dubbed Quiet Star, the new method instructs an AI system to generate many internet rationales in parallel before responding to a conversational prompt. When the AI answers prompts, it generates a mixture of these predictions with and without rationale, printing the best answer, which can be verified by a human participant depending on the nature of the question. Hey, we must be over the 2-hour mark, man. I'm going to start talking like Biden now. Finally, it learns by discarding rationales that are proved incorrect. In effect, the training method gives AI agents the capacity to anticipate future conversations and learn from ongoing ones. Now, could this lead to an actual self-aware AI? It's possible. And that concept does terrify me because I have played Mega Man X. I hope that we don't go down that route and wind up in the Matrix, if we're not already there, of course. But I'm fascinated by this and see where it goes. I don't use AI, but I'm fascinated to see where other people go with that. I wonder if the Mogwai has joined into Rumble yet. Alright, and the last one. This one kind of straddles the line of things I like and things that I hate. But from the New York Post, Bezos' ex-wife giving most of $640 million donations to extreme left groups, boosting migrant criminals, trans athletes. From Richard Calder. I'll explain why I put this on the line in just a sec. Most of the $640 million in new charitable donations Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' ex-wife Mackenzie Scott is dishing out will go to nonprofits pushing extreme left-wing causes, including helping migrants who commit crimes and boosting male-born transgender athletes who want to compete against women. Scott will provide 67 migrant advocacy organizations a combined $122 million for legal aid and other assistance, according to an analysis of 361 awards she announced Tuesday through her foundation Yield Giving. The big winners include the Florida Immigrant Coalition, which vehemently opposes Ron DeSantis, Florida man, crackdown on migrants who commit crimes, and the Tennessee Immigrant Refugee Rights Coalition, which is fighting that state's efforts to increase illegal migrant enforcement. Both scored $2 million awards. Scott's other awards include $117 million to 67 prisoner advocacy groups and other organizations helping jailbirds and ex-cons, which I have no problem with. I'm against the government, so if people want to be able to fight back against them and don't have the means, that doesn't guarantee the fact that they win their appeal, but it gives them the resources to take a look. And $72 million to 43 groups promoting gender identity, sexual orientation, and other LGBTQI, RA, MIGI, XT, BY, AEIOU, sometimes Y causes, such as championing the rights of biological boys who identify as transgender girls to compete in female sports. Now, on their face, I am against all these things. On their face. And a lot of these organizations like this are pump and dump scams to take in donations from wealthy donors like Mackenzie Bezos and make their founders rich and not actually benefit the people who are on them. But all the money that these people are not getting from wealthy beneficiaries like Mackenzie Bezos, whatever her old name is money that they would have had their hand out to the government for, and the current Biden administration would be more than happy to give and 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 give to. If you believe in this crap, and I don't, then you can privately fund it, which Bezos is doing. I don't believe in this crap. And by Bezos going out and privately funding this means that I don't have to fund it with my taxpayer dollars. So, Godspeed. If you want to waste your money on this, that's between you and the organizations you give money to. It's not my business, except for the money that you save me on my taxes from going out to this crap. Now let's do a couple things that I hate. Simon Ateba over on X, porn actress Stormy Daniels, claims that when she came out of the bathroom, Trump was there in his underwear. Get that image out of your mind before you go to bed tonight. So entitled. I thought the only reason she had sex with him consensually is because he was an elder and a man, and because she is from the South. That is a terrible reason to do it with somebody. And she was taught to respect elders and men and to be a good girl. Yes, that's why she went into porn. No disrespect, but it was because of that good education from the South. That education taught her to respect elders and men. When she became a sex actress, Trump has denied any sexual relationship with her. Note, the documentary now airing on Peacock has been released ahead of her testimony in court next potentially month. And the presidential election in November, she's been on a media tour now, because of course she is. Note, the MSM claims she's more credible than the former president of the United States. So we've got a 1-minute clip of this interview. Stormy Daniels is on a book tour right now because she released a memoir about her time with the former president. I wonder why the public is gobbling that shit up.
People just wanted the salacious details. When I came out of that bathroom and Trump was there in his underwear, so entitled. I remember thinking, oh fuck, how did I get myself into this? I felt that I had been misled and tricked, and I can't even find the words, but I thought we had this mutual respect. I've maintained it wasn't rape in any fashion, but I didn't say no because I was 9 years old again. And the last thing I remember was I could totally take him if I want to scream or fight, but I'm not supposed to act like that. There's that whole dynamic because I was from the South that he was an elder and a man, and I was taught to show respect and be a good girl.
What a load of fucking crap. It was before he ran for president or switched out to the Republican Party. You saw a guy with a whole bunch of money and you wanted to screw him with the hopes that you would get a whole bunch of money. That's what it boiled down to. Nothing else. That's what it boiled down to. And if he'd never run for president, we would have never heard your name. Elizabeth Warren, back in the news. This week I reintroduced my ultra-millionaire tax. It's time for millionaires and billionaires to start paying their fair share.
Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Michael Bloomberg. What's the thing they all have in common? They all pay a
donate
lower
to Democrat
tax rate
causes?
than a Boston public school teacher.
That's false.
not right. And it's why President Biden is taking on the billionaires. And it's why, just this week, I reintroduced my ultra millionaires tax. If someone starts a business and makes it big, good for them. My bill says that if you make it big, I mean really big, I mean more than $50 million, then pitch in 2 cents on every dollar over 50 million. And why? So everyone else can have a chance. That's it. It's simple. After all, these billionaires made their fortunes on roads we all paid to maintain and with workers we all paid to educate. And what can we get when millionaires and billionaires finally pay a fair share? Universal childcare and pre-K, tuition-free technical school and public college. And we can make the kind of investments in our communities that will give everyone a fighting chance.
So, a couple problems with this. Number one, people like Warren have convinced their followers that wealth means income. Because that's what the government can go after, is your income. It is not income. I mean, they've done everything just to make it a jealousy point off of this. Now, Jeff Bezos, here's the weird part. Jeff Bezos' income on paper, when he was the CEO of Amazon, he paid himself $80,000 a year. Everything else that he had, he kept in assets, and he kept in either Amazon's coffers or his personal coffers as an asset. And if he did sell a building or a boat or a car that was rare enough that it appreciates in value, or an LLC or stock, to go back and purchase a boat or a car or a building, he paid the capital gains tax on those transactions. What Warren continually tries to do is go after unrealized gains, which means that in order to pay the taxes, these billionaires would have to sell off assets like a building or an LLC or a stock, which would plummet the value of the stock, or a boat, in order to come up with the cash for that. And who are the only people out there that can purchase a building of that magnitude, or a boat, or a car that's rare enough to increase in value, or an LLC, or that level of stock, are people who already have that level of fucking money. But they come back out and do this every couple of years. And they come back out here and try to convince you that these wealthy people are making $50 million a year in income. Or $1 billion in income, and that's their income. It's not what it is. And they know that. And Bloomberg, by the way, would probably have a carve-out, and so would Bezos, because they donate to Democrat causes and Democrat campaigns. That's the fun part of that, because they own politicians. And they could get around it with that. But taxation in and of itself is theft, and trying to start the class war through greed is appalling. But look at those high cheekbones. Alright, a couple other things that I hate. CBS News from my home state. Wisconsin GOP leader calls the Trump supporters trying to oust him whack jobs and morons. I have never liked this guy. Well, up until 2008, I was a Democrat and I was trained in camps not to like this guy, but I have never liked this dude. I think this guy's kind of an ass, and I have for quite a while. This, of course, is Robin Vos, the Speaker of the Assembly in the state of Wisconsin, one of the key Republicans of our state, and an old guard neoconservative. Wisconsin's top Republican derided supporters of former President Trump who are trying to recall him from office as a whack job and morons, predicting Tuesday that their efforts would fail and they would be subject to fraud charges. Yeah, that's a great thing to do from a government position. Charge your political enemies with fraud. Have you learned nothing? Well, of course you haven't, because you think Orange Man bad too. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos is being targeted for recall because he refused to impeach the state's top elections officials or proceed with attempting to decertify President Biden's 2020 victory of Wisconsin. His actions angered Trump, who accused Vos of covering up election corruption, while Trump's followers mounted an unsuccessful primary challenge in 2022 are now trying to force a recall election. Vos lashed out at recall organizers at WisPolitics.com luncheon on Tuesday, saying organizers are so out of touch with reality. The people who did this, whack jobs and morons, he said. Recall organizers did not return a message seeking comment. So there are two things with this for me. Number one, yes, Vos is old guard Republican. He is a Bushite. And while he is entitled to be his best Bushite self, I don't begrudge him with the fact that he's a Bushite and he is entitled to be his best Bushite self possible. What I will remind him, though, in these trying times and times of trouble, when Mother Mary comes to me, is that you are not there to impose your political will. As much as the Democrat Party and the GOP and the old guard have come out and believe that it's their power to tell the people what it is that they want and what they're going to do, you are still a servant of the people, especially in the assembly. You are a direct representative of, directly represent the people of Rochester, Wisconsin in the assembly. Which means if you don't succumb to their will, yes, they are in a position where they can come back and recall you. And it's perfectly legal to do so. You can try to reason with them, you can try to bargain with them, but ultimately your job is to represent their whims to Madison, to the state government. I have had the same complaint with Justin Amash, where again, I respect him and his beliefs of why he thought that the Orange Man was bad and guilty, but he did so and tried to impose his whim against the wishes of his congressional district on a federal level. His district did not want him to vote for the impeachment, and he said, screw you, I'm going to do it anyway. And then when they called him on it, ran as an independent. Changed his affiliation to an independent. Well, the people that voted for you didn't want an independent, they wanted a Republican. So it's no wonder that they rejected you after you denied their whims and then changed your party affiliation. And I'm sorry, calling them whack jobs and morons in an election year is not the way to get back on their good side. You moron. And the last one, car guy stuff. From the New York Post, historic crackdown on gas cars will ensure 2/3 of vehicles will be electric or hybrid by 2032 after Biden admin finalizes new rule. Bet you that one gets overturned. From Deanna Glebova. The Biden admin finalized its crackdown on gas cars on Wednesday, with the Environmental Protection Agency announcing drastic climate regulations meant to ensure more than 2/3 of passenger cars and light trucks sold by 2032 are electric or hybrid, of course not giving a goddamn about the emissions that needs to power them, only caring about the emissions coming out of the tailpipe. The EPA rule imposes strict limits on tailpipe pollution, limits the agency says can be met if 56% of the new vehicles sold in the U.S. are electric by 8 years from now, along with 13% that are plug-in hybrids or other partially electric vehicles. It would be a huge increase over current EV sales, which rose 7.6% of new vehicle sales last year, up from 5.8% in 2022. And all you are going to do is ensure that these cars sit on the lot and rot, while people clamor to be the first one to buy up the gas cars while they're still available, driving those prices way the fuck up. And I'm sure you're also going to come out here and try to illegalize vehicles that are on the road with onerous inspections as well, so the used car market can get dried up. Oh, Helix, didn't you know? Elizabeth Warren was a high school teacher. She's worked in a day in her life. Actually, you know what's funny about Warren? Just a side note, going back onto that one. This is not confirmed by me, but the stories that I've heard, the rumors that I've heard from people who have taken classes from Elizabeth Warren, including one Benjamin Aaron Shapiro, say that she was actually pretty conservative when she was at Harvard. She didn't turn to progressive until after she got into politics, which means that she's probably going out there to vote by. And she doesn't believe her own crap. Which is par for the course in Washington, by the way. Despite the relatively low demand, which has led to auto manufacturers scaling back planned investment in EVs, the EPA insisted that car makers have not had any change in intentions regarding PEVs, generally or specifically. Well, yeah, that's because nobody wants the goddamn thing. Which platforms am I off on, by the way? I see that I'm not getting chat in certain platforms. Am I off those platforms? Hang on, I gotta check what we're doing. I know we're at the end of the stream. I just noticed that the stream is only taking on 3 out of the 6 chats. But it looks like I'm on everywhere. So I don't know if it's just the chats aren't hanging out and handshaking with each other. I know the Rumble chat's not included in that. I don't know. Go check the monitors over here. The X obviously didn't go and connect. But otherwise I don't know what it is that didn't connect. Anyway, let's finish off here. The EPA announcement also mentioned the rule is separate from but aligned with the Biden admin's stated 2021 goal of having 50% of all new U.S. vehicles sold in 2030 be zero emission. The rule unveiled Wednesday is a scaled-down version of regulations proposed last April and withdrawn after backlash from the auto industry, but still represents the most aggressive attack on internal combustion of any country in the world. Yeah, well, let me know how that goes over with your union voters. Meanwhile, I'm going to be buying up every Cavalier, Ranger, Escort, and Mustang I can get my hands on and fixing them up and hoarding the motherfuckers. Because I don't want one of those goddamn things, and I don't want to have to. I already don't want to have to fight new vehicle prices. Did I drop off at some point? Because I just looked over at the. Let me refresh this over here. Yeah, I looked over at the monitor for Restream, and it shows that I'm only... Okay, now it's caught back. I was going to say. It showed that I was only live for like 37 minutes. I'm like, that can't be right. Technology. Alright, we're out of here. We're done. Interesting night. It was still light out when we started. I don't know if any of you guys saw that or not, but it was still light out when we started, and, well, it's getting darker earlier, but... You know what? We'll head out of here for the night. Where's the outro? Outro music. Fun night, interesting night. This is a shame that we had to start off talking about a bridge collapse and people dying. I totally wanted to start the stream talking about the Trump victory lap. I wish I could have started with that, but with that, we're out of here. It's been a fun night. It's been a great night. No stream tomorrow. I'm going to do my Thursday chores tomorrow because we'll be back here on Thursday to talk about the media frenzy, the battle at the border, the Moscow attack, and a host of more things. Plus, whatever happens in the next 46 hours. That'll be fun. We'll see what happens there and what we do with that. So, take care. Have a good night. Get some rest. The audio platform will be up yet tonight. The YouTube re-upload will be back up by tomorrow morning. And Quest Fanning will probably share that out. Big shout out to Quest Fanning for sharing that out every week when the stream comes live. It's getting to the end of the stream, man. I'm talking like Biden again. But we're out of here. Take care. Have a good night. We will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. If you are still live, come hang out with me. We're going to go raiding on Twitch. I think I know who we're going to go raid to because that person should still be on live. Yep, she is. So we'll go see our friend Cat Pants over there. Come back and join me for that. Otherwise, we will see you here on Thursday for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.